And though it's not explicitly stated, the running back position as a whole is pretty much devalued in the NFL. You can look at how many guys have been drafted in the first round. Hasn't been a lot at the running back position. To me, it's starting to trickle down. The thought process behind the position being devalued is trickling down to the college game. Now, James and I have talked a lot about the game is starting to evolve around throwing the football in the pass game. Quarterback is the most important position in a lot of people's eyes. But, James, whenever you look at how teams, whether it's contractually, whether it's, getting a bang for your buck, trying to squeeze the talent out of this running back position in the NFL, what's the biggest point that you think is picking up in the college game? Because to me, it's the fact that obviously the NFL has a ton of quarterbacks. They're the highest paid position. They're most important. And they're kind of the sole leader of their team, essentially, next to the head coach. When I look at college, it's starting to become that way. When you've got guys like Dylan Gabriel, you got guys like Will Howard, like the top quarterbacks, Cam Ward, another guy, for example, they seem like under the head coach, they're the next most important guy. And then all of the other positions, especially the running back, like if you're not helping the quarterback be the best version of himself, you're not as important. Like, is that the same way that you see it? Am I missing something? Like, what is your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think especially at the college level, we're seeing less and less of it just being one guy being the lead carrier of the ball for the football team. We're starting to see, which I was a part of running back committees. You were part of running back committees where, we still had success in that. I think there's less and less of there being that bell cow back, the guy ripping off the 150, 200 yards a game. That's what, Ashton Genty is doing. Just look at Penn State. They have Nick Singleton, K. Tron. They have two backs. And you look at some of these other schools, they have multiple guys carrying the football, so we don't necessarily see guys really carrying the load at the position. So I think that can lead into why we haven't seen a back in that Heisman finalist contention or a back actually winning the Heisman. And when it comes to the NFL, it has shifted to this pass heavy system for most football teams, but I think it's starting to turn back a little bit. I think teams are starting to realize, teams are starting to realize that you need to have a back or two that you can lean into to take some pressure off the quarterback. I mean, if you just look at the Lions, no offense to Jared Goff, I think he's playing extremely well. Tough one last night.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about some of them old team meetings before we played Jared Goff.
I mean, no offense to him. He's been playing excellent this year, probably aside from last night. But you have David Montgomery, you have Jahmyr Gibbs, you have guys that can take over the game at the running back position. It simplifies the game for your quarterback. He doesn't have to sit there and hold the ball for 5 seconds. He can play action, get to the top of his drop, get the ball out. You hand it off to David Montgomery, he rips it off for 6 or 7 yards, or you hand it off to Gibbs, you take it 70 yards. That's the type of back that he is. So I think the game is starting to shift. It kind of goes in ebbs and flows, probably every 5 to 10 years, to where it's more of a passing game than it's more of a running game. So I think in the NFL, in order for them to start paying backs once again, you have to be a guy. Like, you have to be one of those guys that can literally take over a game, or you just have to be a difference maker every time you touch the football, a la Saquon Barkley, a la Derrick Henry, a la Nick Chubb when he's healthy, or like a Jahmyr Gibbs.
Well, we're seeing some of that, right? Because we're seeing some of these guys that have gotten some lucrative deals. Like you mentioned, Saquon Barkley. Look at what Derrick Henry's doing. Look at Josh Jacobs in Green Bay. Like
Josh
some of these
Jacobs,
guys,
Christian McCaffrey, can't forget about this.
There's a lot of guys that have gotten paid that are making substantial moves and helping their team be much better on offense. And like you said, take a lot of pressure off of these quarterbacks who are also getting paid a lot more money than they are. Yeah. Like, when is the NFL going to take this approach as a whole to understand that and start just equaling the playing field as far as dispersing money and rewarding these guys? Because, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. These guys who got these lucrative deals are, like, they're showing their worth. So when do you think the NFL is going to take a holistic look at this and just start to value the position better contractually?
I think at the end of the day, it falls back on us. It's backs. The guys that get paid, you got to keep performing. I think that's been the Achilles heel for our position. I think it started like with Zeke. Zeke made the $18 million a year. Then the performance started to dip off a little bit. Le'Veon, he got his contract, and then it was a rough situation that he was in with the Jets, but performance wasn't there. Todd Gurley, he got his money and started to get banged up a little bit. The performances started to dip off a little bit. So guys like CMC, Saquon, which Christian McCaffrey just was back this past week. You got to keep that level of play high, and I think that helps the younger guys in that next generation. The Jahmyr Gibbs, the Bijan Robinsons. When you have the guys at the top already performing well, and they're still making that $60 million, then look, then Bijan can go to the top. He can make 17 or 18. Then Jahmyr Gibbs can make whatever, 17, 18. And that'll continue to work that, that money back up. I think that's what it takes for guys to perform well at the top consistently.
Well, do you think that at the moment, until they hit that mark, do you think the lack of money at that particular market, i.e. running backs, does that make guys not want to play the position? And even taking it down to the college level as well, because when you look at, I mean, I don't have a list in front of me, but I guarantee you if I look at NIL packages for running backs compared to receivers, quarterbacks, like DBs, like it's still like the market is still going to be slimmed down. Like, so whether it be the college level, whether it be the pro level, like if you're a young kid or even if you're a young dad that's looking at your kid and be like, oh, I want him to be like, I want him to make some bread. Like, I want him to get paid. Like, do you think that this is going to turn people away from playing the position? That's such a great and powerful, important position.
I think it can deter some people, but I just think that there's nothing like it. No matter how much the guys are making, there's nothing like being a running back and your team needs to close out football games and lean into you hitting the ball. It's raining outside, it's cold outside. You can't throw the football very well. You can lean into your backs. I still think it's still one. I think it's the most important position.
Call it spade, right? Call it spade.
I think it's the most important position. It starts at Little League. You can't throw the football so young, you lean into your running backs. And even at high school, most of your running back, to me, most of the time, unless you got an elite quarterback, it's your running backs that really carry your football team. So I still think it's vitally important. Maybe there's some kids that may look to go to a different position based on the money. But to me, as we grew up, the best athletes were you started at running back.
Put your hands on your knees and said, all right, you're going to tote this pill.
Yeah. So I think it should still be that way. Maybe some guys think different, but I think it should always be like that.
No, yeah, James, you definitely make a lot of good points. I'm with you there. When you look at the position from college to NFL, like what's the transition? What are the biggest skills that you need to improve from making you a good college back to making you like a pro level starting caliber running back in the NFL? Because don't paint the picture of like a Saquon or a Christian McCaffrey, but just like to go from college to the professional level, like what do you need? Paint the picture. Like what skills do you need? What steps do you need to take? Like what's it take?
First, I think you got to understand, the schemes that are being ran, at the running back position from a offensive line standpoint, from running back standpoint, and the QB standpoint. I think, in New England, you learn that, fairly quickly, the gap schemes, whatever. They want you to read the mic, outside zones. They want you to read the end. They go, why are we running this play? Why are we running against, this type of scheme? I think that helps you understand and why you have success on certain run plays. And I think the biggest skill set, you got to be able to create your own yards. It's not always going to be blocked up perfectly on every single run. Those backs that are able to turn 1 yard runs into 6 or 7 yard runs or whatever, 3 or 4 yard runs into 20+ yard runs. That's what makes you a difference maker for your football team. That puts so much stress on defensive coordinators and defenders when they know they're going up against a guy that, look, if we don't get 2 or 3 guys around this guy, he's going to give us a lot of problems, for this entire football game. So I think it's just understanding the game from a schematic standpoint and just being a special football player when the ball is in your hand. And I will say, too, for guys that play on all 3 downs, you have to understand the passing game, too, as far as protecting the quarterback, winning in, one-on-one routes or just being in the right spots in zone coverage to turn, those 3 or 4 yard check downs in the first downs. That helps, keep your offense on schedule.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the passing game, like for me, and we've hit this nail on the head a couple of times, but when you look at the way the game is evolving and it's all about the pass game now, like you've got to be a great back in the passing game, whether that's picking up blitzes. And that's not just being willing to block these big ass linebackers, but that's also understanding the schemes. Like I remember how tough it was to learn Josh McDaniels' protection systems, and whether it would be the walkthroughs or the film sessions, like seeing it through his lens, which is ultimately seeing it through the quarterback's lens, like that took a long time for me to get. And then something that you were unbelievable at, which is why we all call you Sweet Feet, on routes. Like, listen, people. You want to talk about a guy that is uncoverable? Like, I ain't talking about no receivers. I'm talking about James Sweet Feet White. Like, you were absolutely uncoverable. Every time they just gave James the option to do whatever he wanted. Like, they used to combine deep routes and short routes and just say, James, just go run whatever the hell you want. Just go do whatever you want. But it was so incredibly important because, I mean, the hell, that's why you were such a security blanket for Tom for, your all's Super Bowl runs. Like, that's what made you available. That's what kept you on the field. That's what kept you in New England for so long. So to me, for these young cats, like, you got to be involved in the passing game. Like, you got to be able to block for the quarterback, understand the schemes, and you got to be able to run crisp routes. Like, that was those two things, like the passing game. I didn't understand that when I was young. Like, I was just hand it to me. I just told it. That's it. But being in New England, transitioning to the NFL, like understanding the importance of the pass game, it just being able, because I was never the greatest receiving back, but even being able to be in there for protection purposes and pick up those blitzes, like that instilled a lot of confidence from Bill, from Josh, from the quarterbacks, from you guys. Like even you, like you got to a point where you were like, yeah, Damien can stay out there. Like Damien can pick up these blitzes. So yeah, young guys, listen, if you're listening, get involved in the passing game.